Hi, at the end of the users meeting, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the updates in FactSage 8.3. So let me start with the database updates. In the FD Oxide database, the titanium containing systems have been completely revised. So both the titanium 4 plus and the titanium 3 plus containing systems in this larger group of elements has been completely remodeled for a better description of the partitioning of the different elements. In the FD salt database, two different liquid salt solutions have been added. On the one hand, the salt L solution is a potassium magnesium based salt with nitrite, chloride, and also then minor amounts of nitrite and the ClO4. And actually the carbonate is also completely included in that. In the salt M database liquid solution is a liquid solution that describes especially cerium chloride behavior in this larger chemical system. The GTOX database was really major. There was a major revision because we have completely remodeled the liquid phases. So there had been in GTOX the slag, the metal, and the salt liquid. And now there's only one liquid phase left, which is the slick phase, which stands for slag liquid. You don't need to think about anymore which liquid phase to choose and maybe which liquid phase not to choose in a calculation because it will automatically decompose into the right slag metal solutions. And at the same time, we have improved the solubility calculations for metal slag systems, but also for solubility of sulfur and other impurities like chlorine, which is a new element in the GTOX in the slag phase. The FT-Lite, FS-COP, and FS-LED databases are all developed by the group around Patrice Chatron at CRCT Polytechnique Montreal. And they have all seen a rather extensive update of the systems that are covered. You see that the FT-Lite database now covers nearly 1,000 binary systems, so a growth of 60 binary systems or 6%. Which is quite substantial. Similar growth and even a little bit more for the copper database, and a little bit on the lead side. Platinum was a major update here in gallium containing systems, and also a few other minority elements are now described better, like germanium, antimony, arsenic, and similar elements. The steel database has seen a growth in the number of binary systems that are covered by 14% from 330 to 380, which is mainly due to additions of chromium rare earth systems, but also scandium containing systems, quite a number of them, plus a few updates on calcium, magnesium, niobium, and zinc containing systems. The SPM-CVN database has a growth of roughly 4%, mainly ternary systems including boron have been added, a few carbon-containing systems as well. And the AMP-AOQ database receives an update with respect to the user-friendliness by splitting it into a calculation and a database development version. And we also update the formation enthalpies in AMP because Materials Project has uploaded R2scan calculated formation enthalpies, so we make use of those. Then the next update now on the calculation modules, the parallel processing of equilibrium phase diagrams. In FactSage 8.3, you will be able to go to add-ons, and then there are two new features here, which are equilib instances and phase diagram instances, which allows you to set up several instances of equilib, so several windows of equilib that can run in parallel and independently from each other. I just tested this on my computer and have seen that with one instance I have something between 15 and 18% of CPU that is used, even with 4 Equilib instances running at the same time. Each of them consumes more or less the same CPU, which is still in the range of 14 to 16% of the overall CPU power. Which is a rather good result. And the speed up is shown here just for an example calculation that I performed on my computer. So with one Equilib instance, it takes up some amount of time. If you go to 4 Equilib instances and you distribute the calculations over these, you can get a speed up of by a factor of 3. Then in the Calvert Optimizer, there have been a couple of major changes. We had an intermediary release around Christmas last year, and this time in version 2.0 we have completely revised the way that we calculate the error sum. So in the past it was an optimization with respect to the measured experimental data. Which is sometimes difficult because, for example, it can happen that with bad parameter set, a phase is just never stable. So it's it's impossible to calculate its formation temperature. So we are now going towards the driving forces without any change in the graphical user interface. So we are taking care of that in the back end, and that has drastically improved convergence and optimization speed. It will be presented next week at the Calvert conference, and we hope for some positive feedback there. Yeah, then rather minor improvements compared to the first bullet point. You're now able to clone experimental data groups. There's a new button here, which is just easier if you have several very similar experimental data that you don't need to input all of the information that is duplicated twice. And we have implemented a new experimental type or recipe, which is the heat of reaction recipe, which is a quantity that you quite often would want to optimize. Then on the minor improvements, you are now able to add TDB files directly in the data search window of Equilib. So if you click on the Add button here, and then you get the Add Remove Database dialog here. And there's a new button here that is that says Import. And what you do is that you can import a TDB file here, which will then be converted and directly loaded into Equilib. Second minor improvement, the taskbar icons. If you have phase diagram, view data, compound, Equilib module all open, these will show up at the taskbar all with the F logo, as well as the main menu. So it is sometimes a little bit hard to distinguish which program is what. So we decided that we just have here a different logo for the different programs or different modules. Equilib will get an E, phase diagram a P, and compound module, for example, a C, and there will be other icons for the other modules. And installation and updates, we are implementing code signing via Authenticode that should reduce the issue of false positive flagging of some exe or DLL files of FactSage by antivirus software. And we also implemented an offline mode. So if you don't want to check for updates because you don't like it if a program is accessing the internet, or your IT doesn't like it if a program is accessing the internet without you fully knowing what it is doing, you can just switch off the internet connection of or the internet connectivity of FactSage. Okay, and then the last point, you have seen the presentation by Florian earlier on ChemApp. So ChemApp for Python will be included free of charge until August 2024, or the maintenance and support end date if that is earlier. And so that gives you the chance to try out whether or not ChemApp for Python is something that is useful for you. Definitely will speed up the calculations by a factor of 10, roughly, is our experience. And then the Equi2Py module will also be included, so you can set up an equilibrium calculation as you have here, and you can then use the Equi2Py module, so essentially file save as a Python script, and you will then convert this one into a ChemApp for Python script. So you don't need to learn all of the ChemApp commands in Python, but you can, that job is taken over by us for you, which should make it much easier to get started with ChemApp for Python. This will not support stream calculations yet. We will implement that in the next year for the version 1 year from now. Okay, that was the short introduction to what is new in FactSage 8.3. I guess the only information that you are now missing is when will be the release, and the release is planned for August. So you still need to wait 1.5 months roughly, and then we hope that we will be able to ship to you the FactSage 8.3, including all of the updates that are listed here, and many more minor things that should make the usability smoother. Thank you very much for your attention.